Now we've come to the fun part of our show. South Africans heading to the polls on Wednesday, the 3rd of August. This year's local government elections are one of the most hotly contested in recent years, with many seeing them as a test of the current leadership. But what are some of the country's big parties promising voters? We have called into studio to unpack their manifestos with us the DA's Makashule Gana and the EFF's Deputy Chairperson in Gauteng, Mandisa Mashego. Thank you both so much for coming in. I must just make it clear that we did ask the ANC to join us, but they sent us this response. Unfortunately, we are no longer participating in any format of panel debate at this late stage of the campaign. So we did invite the ruling party in. They declined to come along. So let's talk to two of the main opposition parties in the country right now. We're going to put a number of questions to them, roughly 10 questions, depending on how we do for time. But I've warned them already. I'm going to be very rude, and after exactly 1 minute, I'm going to stop them. We're going to start, of course, with you, Makashule, you being closest to me. Let's start off with this question. Number one, how do you propose to improve poor municipal performance?
Thanks, Joanne, and afternoon to the viewers. As the DA, one of the things that we want to do, and something that we have perfected in the municipalities that we govern, is that we will employ people with skill and will to serve the people, because it's of no use to employ someone just because they have skill, but they do not have the heart to serve the people. So what we have done in the municipalities that we currently govern, municipalities like Midvaal and Cape Town, is that we prioritize skills and willingness to serve the people of South Africa and the people of that particular municipality. So that's something that will continue in the municipalities that we currently do not govern, that we want to govern, like Nelson Mandela Bay, like Johannesburg and Tshwane. So skill and willingness to serve the residents is key.
Right, let's stop there. Thank you. How do you propose as the EFF to improve poor municipal performance, Mandisa?
Well, the key thing with the EFF, as you would know, we've made quite an impact and a mark in terms of the issue of state capacity to produce services and deliver its services so that it has direct control over quality issues. Because currently, with the state mainly serving as an administrator of service providers, and of course, going beyond just being an administrator of service providers, we know for a fact that many government officials led under the current ANC government, and of course the DA in the Western Cape, are merely just involved in sourcing bribes from service providers. The state has no control over what quality of services are procured or rather delivered at municipal level. So we are very clear on the abolishment of the tender system, gradual as it might be, but the tender system needs to be abolished so that the state is able to deliver houses that are built on a quality level, roads that are maintained and built on a quality level, but also primarily in large areas such as metropolitans.
Thank you. I'm going to stop you there. How would you improve primary health care in communities, DA?
One of the things that we want to do, and we have already started in the municipalities that we govern, is that the staff component, so the nurses in the clinics and also the medication is supplied on time. You know, because one of the things is that you have a situation where medication is not supplied, you don't have enough staff members. So one of the things that we have done is that we have performed an audit in the municipalities that we govern, and it's the first thing that we'll do when we come to Johannesburg, when we go to Tshwane, that we need to ensure that all our clinics are properly staffed, and that the turnaround time in terms of the time that you order medication or medical supplies is improved, and to also manage the queue process, because one of the things is that we have many people that wake up very early to go and queue at the clinic, and they end up not being seen.
Stop there, please. How would you improve primary health care in communities, EFF?
Well, you'd know that local government is at the coalface of delivery. People do not get sick only during the day before 4 o'clock. Clinics in all wards, especially in black and impoverished areas where people are not able to afford private health care, must have a 24-hour clinic service. That clinic must have a maternity ward. We know the childbirth rate in South Africa. It must also have an emergency care service unit. But also what is critical is the employment of community health workers directly by the state, as opposed to what we see recently in Gauteng, when 9,000 community health workers all of them black, by the way, were fired quite coldly by the ANC government under Qedani Mahlangu and David Makhura. Those community healthcare workers need to be employed directly by the state to support clinic services, medical services, professional medical services at clinics offered by doctors and nurses and other practitioners. It's also critical to do that so that you alleviate the pressure from provincial hospitals.
Stop there, please. What is your answer to dealing with the housing backlog in urban areas, DA?
Yeah. What we will do is that we'll move away from this model of people always waiting for an RDP house. So one of the things that we want to do is to have a situation where municipal land is released, like we are doing in Midval, and people are able to get the stand where we service the stand. So we provide service, sewer, water, and electricity, and people are able to build in that land. And the other aspect is to engage with the private sector so that there's a public-private partnership to be able to provide with rental housing so that people that do not necessarily want to buy or want to own a piece of property, people that come from other provinces come to areas like Johannesburg in the metros, but for work they're able to have affordable rental stock wherein people can rent in. So those are some of the things that we will do to unlock the housing backlog.
How do you deal with the housing backlog in urban areas, EFF?
It's surprising to me that there are people who have an option not to own a house. I mean, majority of our people are poor. They are unable to get houses for themselves under the commercial banking system, which is so crudely expensive. The state needs to own and control land. Hence, our primary policy position that land must be expropriated without compensation, because those who have owned it have hogged it and they've made millions, if not billions, if not trillions, or double that of rands over the last, let's say, 100 years or over the last 364 years of a colonial state in South Africa. Therefore, the state must build its own quality houses. Minimum a 3-bedroom house with a toilet, flushing toilet, water, proper decent water, and walls in the house, not cracked houses. There is no ways that anybody can have dignity unless they have a safe house. Gauteng, for instance, has got over 600 informal settlements. That is just unsustainable, and majority of those people are South Africans, by the way. We mustn't be told that they are not South Africans, and majority of those people in the informal settlements are unemployed, so they're unable to provide houses for themselves. But if the state...
Stop there, please. I'm going to shake it up a bit and ask you first, EFF. How can the delivery of basic amenities be accelerated?
Well, the only way to accelerate and improve the delivery of basic services is, like we said before, the state must be in direct control of that service. Therefore, the state must improve its own capacity to build houses, to build clinics, to build schools, to maintain roads, and everything else that needs to be done by local government. It's not sustainable to have service providers. Currently, you have here examples in Gauteng, in many areas, Mabopane, Winterveld, houses that were built. In each section, over 1,000 houses built, and they've been left derelict. In fact, they are being used by drug dealers. And even people, females are getting raped in those houses because there's no security. They've never been allocated to anyone. But what's more worse about the situation is the fact that those houses were built with our tax money. Therefore, there's no control over these service providers, and corruption has gone way too deep. Over and above improving the quality of houses that are built, for instance, we're also able to rein in corruption to a lot more manageable levels if the state itself is able to build on its own.
How can the delivery of basic amenities be accelerated, DA?
The first thing is to make sure that the people that work for municipality are properly skilled and have the will to serve the people. But another aspect is to work with communities themselves. You know, one of the things is that many services are given, or they are implemented in communities, and there's no engagement with communities, so that tends not to have ownership from the community. So one of the things that we will do is that there will be ongoing interaction between our governments and the community to ensure that there's joint planning on the services that needs to be planned and to be delivered, and then the community members, some community members are part of that project itself to improve service delivery and improve ownership. Because one of the things is we do not want to implement projects or programs that at the end of the day you find community members who have not taken full ownership of the program or project. So we want to engage on a continuous basis with our communities, but also having the people that those that will deliver the services who are properly skilled.
Stop there, please. EFF, how important is infrastructure investment in growing local economies?
Critical for black communities. Go to any black township, informal settlement, and look at the dire state of infrastructure there. What needs to be done is that budgets need to be reduced in wealthy areas. Local municipal budget needs to go to poor and impoverished areas in townships, informal settlements, and the new areas. Obviously, under our policy to expropriate land, there will be new areas for development, earmarked for development, because the current townships do not just have space to expand on in terms of infrastructure. So it's extremely important that the infrastructure build program focuses on black townships and informal settlements, and the wealthier areas, which in any event, in many cases, are even able to maintain themselves. We need to reduce the spend of infrastructure on wealthy areas. They've benefited more than enough over the last 23 years. Maintenance would be enough for those areas.
Thank you. How important is infrastructure investment in growing local economies, DA?
It's very critical. I mean, if you look at the number of people that are unemployed now in South Africa, the reason that you don't have investment, even businesses investing and starting factories, is because there's poor delivery in many areas. One of the success stories, like Midvaal, the reason we have had an increase in investment in companies coming there is that we are able to provide water, we are able to provide the electricity infrastructure, the road infrastructure is very well. So those are key. Without those basics, without the road, without the water, without the sewer, without electricity, there's no way that you can say the economy is going to grow and people are going to get jobs. So we need to start as a municipality to invest and ensure that we maintain that infrastructure. Because building an infrastructure and not having a maintenance plan in 10, 15 years' time will be worse than where we are now. So it's important that in the building of infrastructure, we factor in the maintenance portion, and that's something that we are doing very well in Midvaal, and that's why in Midvaal...
Thank you. What is your immediate job creation plan at community level, EFF?
Well, it's very simple. Both the private sector and the state need to play a critical role here. The private sector essentially needs to stop seeing itself as a profiteering, segment of the economy. The private sector needs to absorb communities in terms of creating proper jobs. The private sector needs to make sure that SMMEs and small industries basically provide the private sector with whatever goods and services they require. But on the state side, our primary responsibility is to provide quality education and make sure that an industrialized economy is supported by proper skills. Hence our free education policy, which but at local level will provide creches to support primary and higher education and tertiary education with well-balanced children who are well prepared for mathematical studies and in the sciences, so that we have requisite skills for the industrialization program, which the EFF has spoken about on several occasions.
Stop there, please. How should the awarding of tenders be adjudicated, DA?
It should be done in an open platform. So if we take over Johannesburg like we do in Cape Town, the bid adjudication process will be open. Any member of the public will go to the council, sit there and hear and be able to tell that why company A was chosen over company B. So that's one of the first things that we need to do in Johannesburg, and something that has worked very well for us in Cape Town and also in Midvaal, where any member of the public, regardless of your state or your standing in society, you can go to a meeting. No one will ask for your credentials, and you can also see for yourself what's happening, and also for prospective small businesses, they can go in and understand how the process works, so that next time when they're able to bid for projects in the DA governed city, they know the things that they need to look out for and prepare in their document. So that's something that's key, because we want to assist even the small business owners to understand how the bidding process and the tenders are adjudicated.
How should the awarding of tenders be adjudicated, EFF?
The tender system needs to go. The tender system has led to the de-skilling and massive unemployment of black people. The tender system is a rogue system. Government is unable to control it, and primarily because politicians are involved in this tender system, and even government officials now are involved in the tender system. In fact, the EFF's manifesto position in 2014 should find expression in municipalities. So anyone who's found to be corrupt and looting our taxes must spend no less than 20 years in jail. We do not want the tender system. The state must have its own capacity to have engineers who can maintain and lead government-built projects. That's the only way we can influence job creation, by the way, It does not mean that the state itself will do it. The state has companies that do that. ESCOM is a state-owned company, so is Transnet. Municipalities must have efficient roads agencies, efficient construction companies to make sure that any infrastructure maintenance or build project is done directly by the state.
I'm going to throw the next question at you again, EFF. Although policing is a national function, what can be done to eradicate crime at local government level?
Similar to the local health sector, we are proposing to have community safety workers, similar to the community health workers, who are employed directly by the municipality. Their role, again, as the community health workers are supporting the clinic services, the community safety workers through patrolling the streets alongside police officers who are more resourced and more empowered and given more authority to do, arrest and go beyond and lead to prosecutions. We need visible policing. But more than that, what a community safety officer does, they bring back a sense of safety, because then safety, is in your face, and police will be more visible as opposed to driving around all day long wasting petrol in police vans. In any event, they don't even respond on time in those vans. So if every ward has community health workers, it will lead to a much safer environment and a much more controlled environment that can actually do more proactive policing as opposed to waiting.
Stop there. Although policing is a national function, DA, what can be done to eradicate crime at local government level?
Yeah, I think with the working of the municipal police, working together with subs, Metro Police will be used more effectively, like we're doing in other areas, in the prevention side. If you look at a city like Johannesburg, one of the things that we're going to do is to ensure that all those cameras that are in the CBD, they are properly monitored, and those criminal elements that are taking place in the streets of Johannesburg, they are apprehended, and then together with the South African Police Service, we ensure that they get prosecuted. So we will work hand in hand, and also with the community policing forum, because that's key, that the community members also work hand in hand with the Metro Police, work hand in hand with the South African Police Services. So a DA government will support community policing forums and ensure that every community, every area has got a functional community policing forum that works hand in hand with the South African Police Services.
How would you grow small business, EFF?
Well, we stated very clearly that we do not want the tender system, and of course we do not want the labor broking system likewise, because it produces the same underskilling and underdevelopment primarily of black people, and especially black females, as you would know. So in terms of small business, it's very simple. The private sector is not using or procuring to black businesses because of the racism within the corporate and multinational environment, in the business environment. So we want to insist any municipality that is run by the EFF will insist that no less than 40% of private sector procurement must go to black small businesses across the board. That is the only way to influence proper job creation, and of course put in place minimum wages. As you would know, our minimum wage is very clearly 4,500 Rand for the lowest paid workers. Our people are suffering. We can't keep allowing the situation without government intervention to continue.
Well done. You made it before 1 minute, both of you, for that one. Your last question, how would you grow small businesses, DA? Yeah,
thanks. One of the things that we will implement immediately when we come in areas like Johannesburg and Nelson Mandela is to ensure that connectivity, because that's one thing that small business want. They need to be able to live in a global village, and they're able to source and sell their products to everyone. And the other aspect is that we will, as a DA, we will keep the tender system, and what we'll do is we will break down the big tenders into small chunks so that small business owners can get a fair share, and they're able to grow their own businesses, because that's key. And also how the turnaround time in giving approvals to plans, building plans and business plans as a city, we will be able to improve that. So that's key for us. And also the transport, the public transport, because most of our small businesses, they do not have cars, so we need a reliable public transport system that's able to move from point A to point B.
Thank you so much, the both of you. If you hadn't had a chance to go through the manifestos of either the Democratic Alliance or the Economic Freedom Fighters, there was your chance to hear it in literally a minute. 9 issues that we actually dealt with there. Didn't get to the 10th one, but certainly 9 important issues that are going to help you as the voter to make a decision on exactly which party you would like to vote for. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we did invite the ANC to the session as well to asked them to give us a succinct version of their manifesto, but they went on to say to us that they would not be joining us because they are not engaging in any election debates this close to the election.